So first of all, thank you everyone for sticking. 7:30 is wow. Everyone in this room is my personal hero, because I think this is the longest I've ever stayed at a conference, ever, especially for a session. I'm going to do this in English, partly because there are English-speaking people here, and second, because we are in the industry that is very international, and that is beautiful. So when I was thinking about what I should talk about, actually the idea for this topic was born when I looked at other sessions that were presented and other speakers, and I was surprised by the abundance of male speakers, which is actually anticipated because we are in the industry that is mostly driven and led by men. But what I'm going to talk about today is not about men competing with women or women competing with men, because I think it's like comparing apples to oranges. I mean, we are different, men and women, just as every woman is different or every man is different. So I'm not going to talk about this. What I'm going to talk about is actually how we can work together in this industry, because we have a lot in common, but also our industries supplement each other. So what we as women can do to empower men, to learn from them, and actually make this as a synergy. So I'm going to talk about three main things today. First, shortly, is the industry that we're working with in. Second, about the company and the structure and the teams, because you as a leader have to work with teams. And third, and probably is the most important, is you as the leader, a woman leader. So let's start with the industry. Oops, sorry, that was a bit of a teaser. So first of all, I am super lucky and super happy that I am in this industry. I've been here for more than 16 years. I started when I was 19, and I was pretty much following our sales rep around my first conference, and that was AAA games, and I think the amount of women was, 1 or 2% at that conference. And I was 19, and I did not understand, what am I doing here? What is this all about? The players, AAA shooters, is there a place for a woman at all? And then the industry evolved. We got more female audiences, then we got casual games coming in. Females have become a great target audience for many companies. They started developing games for women, which actually opened up a lot of jobs for women as well. So we are happy, and I am happy, that this is the industry that I have selected for my professional career, because I think that games really, for players, we create abundance of different roles, of what you can be anyone in a game, right? You can't be the hero that you want to be, that you cannot be in real life, but in the game you can select what you want to be, how you want to look like. We create worlds which do not exist, which is amazing. So you can travel to a fantasy world or to ancient Rome, anywhere you want to. So this is amazing. This industry has created jobs or professions which did not exist, like game designers or quality assurance, or just people who make money by playing games and designing them, which is like a dream job. Tell to someone 10 or 15 years ago or in 20 that you're going to be paid for playing games all day long. This is amazing. So the industry is great, but this is the industry where passion is actually drives a lot, but this industry is still business. And it is a tough one, we have to admit. So despite the passion, which you really need to love, you really need to understand the business. And as a leader, you need to do the following things. Again, this is from my professional experience. So what you need to be as a leader in this industry is, first of all, build a broad professional network. This industry is exceptionally driven and very dependent on personal connections, because this is the number one thing. You want to do business with people you like, so you start building connections, and then you have people from all different genres and professions, and especially for women, I think this is important, because a lot of leaders are men, but we can learn from them, because they have a lot more expertise and experience, so this is great. Understand the markets, key players in competition. It doesn't matter if you are a leader of an art department, for instance, an art director, or QA, head of QA, it doesn't really matter what you do. You have to think and look outside of your bubble as well. So art might be your kingdom, but you need to understand the business in general. You need to know the markets. You need to know who are the key players, who you're competing against. And also you need to know the target audience, who you're creating it. Invest in conferences. So I've been traveling a lot. But there has been a period in my life when I had a baby, and apparently I could not, so I think I skipped almost 2 years of not traveling, and that was a disaster. Because those 2 years, I actually just fell out of the industry, because once you disappear, you're gone. So if you want to build the broad professional network, if you do want to learn about markets and gain all the experience, do invest in the conference. If your company, for some reason, if you cannot negotiate, or there are some reasons why a company cannot finance it, invest in yourself. So invest in, that's what I do. So sometimes my company, for instance, would not invest my trip, so I would do it by myself, because I understand that this is the investment, because it helps me to move my career further, and this is what I'm doing. Be on top of the industry news. So this is very kind of obvious fact, but you need to follow, understand what the industry is heading, where it's going, as simple as Google Alerts or something that keeps you on top of everything in the industry, because this industry changes so fast, and you need to understand as much as you can what's happening. Because when you travel to conferences or you build a professional network, you need to be interesting. You need to be able to tell something about it. There's a lot of discussion going on, so you need to be kind of on top of this. So now we're going to move to the company. And by the company, I am mostly going to speak about the teams and the team structures and those. So let's start with this. Could you please raise your hand if you have 3+ people that you're managing, so above 3 people? Okay, cool, good. So, if you have a team, even if it's a 3-people team, you need to clearly understand the strength and see the weaknesses, not only of your team and sometimes of your company, but also of every individual. Because you as a leader, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, you are the one who has to foster and to nurture the people who you are managing, and this is super important. Second, consider cultural heritage. So this is from my personal experience in my previous company, I used to work for, it was a Spanish company, and I had 3 teams. And the company was headquartered in Palma de Mallorca. So the way of thinking and the mentality of this culture is completely different. And I moved there after 3 years of working for Israeli companies. This was like I flew to the moon, because I did not understand. From Israeli point of view, you have to work hard, you need to do it. I mean, I could get an email from my boss at 2 a.m., and that was normal. But when I started working at Spanish company, it's like, you come, you still have the drive, you want to do, okay, guys, let's move it, let's do it together. But they don't understand you. They sit and you're like, yeah, mañana, let's talk tomorrow. At 5 p.m., they are gone. Friday, 3 p.m., that's it, they have a beach, it's the sun, they're not going to work. And there's no way you're going to do it just because it's a cultural heritage and there's not much you can do. So you have to adjust and adapt your leadership and also the way you work and communicate with people depending on who you are working with. Third, and probably very important for every leader, doesn't really matter if you're a man or woman, build clear and transparent processes, because this is super important for the leader, and especially in our industry. I am head of product, so I'm coming from a very project management point of view. So your team really needs to understand the processes, the pipelines, the goals, where you heading, the deadlines. It needs to be very transparent, and you need to communicate it very, very often, and make sure, also have a feedback. So it's not just enough to tell this and make it transparent, but also get the feedback that people actually understand you, because sometimes it can get lost in the translation even. Have your people's back. So this is probably one of the important, because the team is actually, it's like an organism. You have to work in a synergy. And if something is going wrong, you own the responsibility, but it does not mean that you as a leader do not have to support. Yes, you take the responsibility, and sometimes, some fails, you have to stand for it, or you have to prove, I don't know, something that happened, but have your people's back, because this is important. They're gonna trust you more, and we as women really need to gain a lot of trust, especially in the beginning. If you're just becoming a leader, and you have people, some who are you managing, they're gonna, especially if it's all men. In my company, there are 3 women out of 30 people. So it does take time to build the trust. Also, talking about the team structure. This is just an example of how. So when you start working in a company, or you are working there, but you're building team for the way you want it to function, the way you see it, because it's your kingdom. This is again the example of my experience. So. When I started to work in the company, we completely rebuilt the team. So we had to make sure that it all worked as chains. There was a very clear process. Everybody understood where they were. But we also had amazing role mentors role, which is people who are leaders as well. So everyone in the team could go to that person and speak and get an advice. And this model proved really, really successful. So I just want to share with you. And then just sum up with the key learnings. So men really do not show their feelings that often, again, from my personal experience. It's a very, they try to be very cold and calm sometimes, right? Unless something really goes out of the way and completely wrong. But I think that it is normal for every manager, for every leader, doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man, to show that you have feelings. If you are frustrated, you can be frustrated. You have a right for it, and you can tell this to your team that you're frustrated. If you're disappointed, or you are happy, or something, it doesn't really matter. But I think it's important to understand that every team member has a feeling, and managers do have feelings too, and they have a right for it. Put conflict on the table. This is the most important. For me, it was probably it might come from a cultural heritage. I was born in Soviet Union, as many of you, probably, maybe not. Some of you are younger, but I was a pioneer. So, everything you take for granted. So whatever teacher said, you said yes. You don't question anything. And whenever the conflict, in the beginning of my career, I was so afraid of any conflict. I would tolerate, I would just sit quiet, not say anything, but that's not gonna work. Because they say the tolerant people are the most dangerous one. So once there is a conflict, from my experience, you have to put the conflicts on the table immediately. If you see a conflict within a team, just bring it on and foster this, and let your people also, sit around the table and discuss the conflict, because it really helps, but it needs to be done immediately, because the longer the conflict actually evolves behind the curtains, that will fire back very, very bad. Give people time to adapt. No matter what you do, if you restructure the team, or you implement new processes, or even if you have a team where you as a leader, and this is the first time they have a woman as a leader, it doesn't really matter what change happens, but people need time to adapt, and you need to be ready and give them this time. And then this is the hard part. So let go those who don't want. I don't know how it is with men, but for me, this was super hard. So letting people go was like, if I had to fire someone, this was like, I could not sleep for, several nights in a row, just because it was so hard. they're part of the team. But if you really have to, maybe the variety of reasons, you just really need to, as a leader, this is something that you have to learn and go through this process. So you need to be prepared for that. Giving teams ownership, but provide guidance and support, this can actually be very, very important. But we're going to talk about it later when I speak about the next chapter, which is the leader, and that is you. For me, probably because I'm so passionate also about marketing, so I kind of put everything in this why, what, how. So even when I think about my career path and when I'm selecting a company, I always question myself with whys. Why am I here in this industry? Why am I standing right now here in front of you and giving this talk? Why am I heading the product? Or anything that comes with why, I need to have an answer for it, because this is a driving force. This is what motivates me. I want to create products. I want to bring exciting experience, those me moments, to players, who can play anytime, anywhere on the mobile device and have fun experience. This is my fun, or my why. Why am I doing this? Because I want to deliver this. I want to create this amazing project. So what is also important. So once you know why, you need to understand what you're going to do with it, and then answer the question how. And I think this is actually the foundation for everything, not just for your career, but in general. Why your team is doing what you want them to do, or why your company is moving in the strategic direction that it is moving. And you need to convey this, answer those whys not only for yourselves, but also for all your team members, because when they understand those whys, it's so much easier to come to agreement or to come up with new innovations and other things, just because you understand those whys. Another important thing which I found for myself is I call it my definition core. So this is what makes me exclusive. Me as a leader in this industry, in this company, as a woman leader, this is an important question, because their variety, the competition is huge, right? So you need to decide for yourself and think about it, what makes you exclusive. And I kind of have this, again, this is my very subjective, but it came with this different fields, and the intersection of those fields actually makes me exclusive. So one is the experience. Experience is what you have learned through your career path. Everything that came through years, your failures, your successes, your triumphs, everything. So this is the experience. It creates you as a professional. Second, it's really screwed up, sorry. Second is personality. Personality, it's like your DNA, right? What makes you as a person. Why people find you funny, interesting, your education, just your character, anything that comes in that creates you who you are. Second is, I called it target audience, but it really depends on who you are creating and your product for. It is really important. So what makes, for instance, me exclusive is that I am really digging the female audience. I am very good at creating games for females just because I understand them. On the product side, it can come from the color palette, for instance, or the user interface, or the button, or the overall, live ops, what events we're going to carry out, or other things. It's just understanding, breathing, and leaving your audience, just digging it. It's super important. And fourth is, I called it category, but it can be market, it can be specific genre, specific product, specific platform. I understand my weaknesses, and I can say that I would probably not create a game for a console, just because this is not the category of the games that A, I'm passionate about, B, I have experience, and it's just not something that interests me. And so those four things is actually creating this exclusive me in the way that I have put it. So I think that it's important to understand your strengths, your weaknesses, and be brave and bold enough to say, yeah, I have weaknesses, and that's fine. I make mistakes, and that's also fine. But that's what the experience comes from, right? We learn by doing things. This is a bit of a complex slide, I think, for 7:30 almost. But just to summarize, what I wanted to say here is that as a leader, I don't think that you can, like, every situation is different, and every person in your team is different at their level or at their knowledge or the scope of work, and you really need to address this on a situational. So this is a situational leadership model that is kind of from 1 to 4. It goes from a very new management. So when you have, for instance, a very junior team that you really need to watch every step they make, and you have the full responsibility of the full ownership. You can't really delegate. Through 2, which is more mature by coaching, 3 consulting, and 4 is actually to delegating. So number 4 for you as a leader is an ultimate goal, because this will allow you to grow further. Because when your team grows, this is when you grow as a leader. So I think that those are the things that make women successful as leaders. So we have an ability to nurture people in our team, and this is amazing. We can listen. We can really identify the strengths and the weaknesses of our people. We can recognize the successes, and we can say as much as the fails, and we can support our people. We believe in everyone in our team. We empower them to do, to go an extra mile, to do something more than they're doing, to grow with us. But also we care. And it can be tough, especially when you have to fire someone or something, but caring for people is amazing, I think. So that really, if you are empathetic about people in your team, this will make your team like super strong. And this bond will allow you to go far, far, far in the success and create amazing products. And the last slide, I'm almost done. So those are the do's and don'ts that I kind of put for myself. Do question stereotypes and the status quo, no matter what it is. If it comes to a product, or it comes to a strategy, or it comes to the form of an email or a presentation, anything. If someone said that this should be so, question why. Don't say so this is the funny thing that I actually found, that women say I'm sorry much more often than men do, especially if we are expressing our opinion. For some reason, we feel that if it's different, then we should be sorry. We should not be sorry, because we have a right to have our own opinion. It may be completely different from what men think. Do dare to disagree and stand behind your point of view. Those who disagree are actually the ones who allow other people to think out of the box and create innovative products and ideas. Do believe in yourself and negotiate for yourself. So women often do not really negotiate for yourself in the workforce, but I think that we have all the power and the ability and to say, yeah, we're awesome. And yeah, I do deserve this position. And yes, I do deserve this raise. Go to your boss and speak about your development as a leader. Do seek for opportunity to improve your leadership skills, because it's on you. No one's going to do it for you. It's all on you. And do be ready to pivot, because everything that I talked about, I kind of call it the golden triangle. So it's you, the industry, and the company. But things change. Your whys may change. You change. Every year is different. Every experience, you are not the same as you were yesterday, and you have a right to burn out or to lose passion, and that's normal, absolutely. You may want to change the company for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. You may want to just switch to another industry just because you found a different passion, you found something that you love, and this is normal. So everything is really changeable, but don't stick to something that you think just, creates the stability for you, or, you go there just because, if you don't, basically to put it in simple words, if you don't love what you do, try to find, either to change it in a way so you actually love it, or switch it. Those are some of the women that I would kind of like to point from the industry. Those are my personal, the ladies who I admire. So Sophie Vo is executive producer at Rovio, Martine Spans is a Telemachy, she's head of publishing, and then Sabrina Carmona. Those are exceptional women. They're really motivational, and they do inspire me. So find an inspiration for you. This is great. Follow them, connect with them, be brave to actually, come and just connect on LinkedIn and say, hey, I am really inspired by your speech or by your article or anything, or just they create amazing products. They do, again, it's from the field of the experience that I am interested in. For you, it might be different, but seek for the peoples that you really admire and try to connect and learn from them. Have your own mentors. And I would like to end it with an amazing quote from Sheryl Sandberg. She's the Chief Operational Officer at Facebook, for those who don't know. So women need to shift from thinking, I'm not ready to do that, to thinking, I want to do that. And I will learn this by doing it. So I hope that this helps you guys to think and also inspire a little bit to become a better version of ourselves, because life is short and we have all the power to do what we want. Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation. I think you covered a ton of content. I have 2 questions. First one, I think you may have covered it in your slides, but I'm curious what you think is the biggest mistake that women are making in terms of trying to be a leader. And then the second question, what do you think needs to change, or what's the biggest thing getting in the way of having more female women leaders in the industry? Thanks.
Thank you. So I think the first question, to answer the first question, the biggest mistake is probably that we underestimate ourselves. I think it's all the mindset and the mentality. So once we believe in ourselves, you know, when you ask a man or you tell him, oh, wow, you did a great job, he'll say, yeah, I did it because I'm awesome. And when you ask a woman, she'll say, yeah, because I had other people who helped me, or I have a great team, or I was just lucky. Just because we're humble, maybe, you know, but we really need to stop underestimating ourselves and say, yeah, I am awesome, and that's why I did a great job. So this is the answer to your first. And the second, could you repeat your second one?
Like, what's the biggest thing, or what's getting in the way of there being more women leaders in the games industry?
I don't think there's something in the way. I think we're getting there. It's just, you know, historically, in German, they say, correct me if I'm wrong, Rebecca, but they used to say what? The woman is 3 Ks, Kinder, Küche, Kirche, something like this. So this is what, like, historically, you know, women, but this is changing, right? How many women were doctors, 60, 70 years ago? Not that much, but look at what's changing right now. I think our industry is evolving, and the women are becoming more, you know, we're getting higher education, we're getting, you know, we are becoming more ambitious, we're thinking just not kids and family and other things, but we want more. We want a quality of life, and we want to decide for ourselves. So I think that we're just going, there's nothing really in the way. It's just evolution that we all have to go through.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you very much for a great speech.
Thank you for staying so long. Thank you.